Hello. So this is the first run of January, the new year. Pretty excited. I'm a little thrown off right now because of the cold. But I guess I'll start with me. I found a few more New Year's resolutions to take up on this year, and one was definitely to cut off caffeine. So I'm a little tired right now, but that's okay. Another one, I guess, would be cutting pride. Definitely toning down on my pride a lot. I feel like it was definitely ruining a lot for me, just like internally, because I'm always thinking and in my head about stuff, and I'm very good at discerning like what's right and what's wrong, what's prideful and what isn't. So I definitely do want to just chill on the pride for sure. And above all else, definitely, what was the way I put it? Prioritizing my walk with God. Yeah, that's definitely number one. Anyways, yeah, okay, so today's message is about consecration. And I did a little bit of reading while I was having breakfast earlier. And just to, I could kind of like know what it is I'm talking about. And consecration is basically just a devotion, like having God be your whole purpose in life. And I think it's very fitting that this would be the first message of the year, because it's a good, like, how do I say? It's good, like, segue, I guess, into like the whole year, so I feel like I think that's pretty cool that it kind of lined up like that. But I like the idea of sacrificing basically everything that you are or have, like, for God. In the Bible it says that we are to follow or search for God with our whole heart. And I feel like a big thing that is very difficult for people is just like in our upbringing or in our society or an environment, like we're not necessarily like, God isn't very, like, he's not the number one priority in a lot of people's lives, like, in fact, I feel like God is mocked a lot these days, and that's just like, I guess, what makes you cool, so I feel like, it's very difficult for people to want to pursue God or even talk about God, like, in like their social settings, because like they just feel like, no one wants to be like an outcast, like no one wants to be alone or like, be made fun of, or just things like that. And I feel like it's very fitting in anything that we do. In anything that we do, we have to sacrifice something, and with our walk with God, it's going to sacrifice a lot of friendships, a lot of environments, maybe jobs, relationships, definitely habits, It's so cold. Yeah, I just think that that's kind of just, it fits kind of a little bit of what, like, my ideology of like fitness is, like, oh man, I'm drawing a blank right now. I guess I'll just word it the best way I can. You kind of just have to, like, there has to be a sacrifice in anything that we do. We can't have it all, and I get that it's very difficult, but I think people have to get comfortable with chasing discomfort, because it's the only way we'll grow. I think I just, like, with time, at first working out was just like a chore, and I feel like a lot of people correlate God with that as well. Like you go to church on Sunday and then you're good for the week, but our walk with God needs to be a daily thing, just like working out, and you have to kind of fine tune your mind into just either being like, this is what I love, this is what I like, or you just become it. You just become that identity, if that makes sense. Like I know for sure, like, I had many days where, I didn't want to work out. I didn't want to like get up and run. I definitely don't want to be out here right now because it's so cold. Um, but it's just, that's just the discipline. Like, you have to like kind of just fine tune your mind over time, and eventually there will come a time where like you don't even think about it. You just become it. You find out you're just going to church because you want to, or you're praying before you eat because you want to, things like that. You're praying for your friends, or you're not even ashamed to like talk about God with your friends. Like, you just become that. And I think that's very, that's something that you could apply with anything else in your life. Okay, so let me see. Let me see. Okay, I think with that, like, hearing that, some people will assume that like we're just blindly submitting to God, like, because I know, like, especially for me, like, growing up, my mom, she always used to be like, the way it goes is it's God and then it's family. And hearing that as a kid, you're kind of just like, yo, what? Like, I'm like 6 years old. You can't be laying that down on me, like, that's low-key a really crazy thing to hear as a kid. But now I get it. Like, I get where she was coming from, and I feel like you do need to bring it to that level. But some people will think like, oh, like, because they're still holding on so dearly to like relationships or money, possessions, and stuff like that. Like, it's very difficult to comprehend like loving God to that level, but I think it's just not like, it's really just all on us, like, to devote our time to God. I think time is the greatest currency. Everyone always just wants to do what it is they want to do, like, which is why, like, which is why God doesn't like force us like to do anything. God isn't gonna like, at that point we just become like robots, and that's not the point of following God. The purpose is to, devote our time, because I think God understands that, like, how important our own time is, like, in wanting to do what we want to do, like hanging out with friends, or going out to eat, or spending time with your significant other. Like, it matters like where you prioritize your time. So yeah, I think that's like the biggest thing, where like people are always like, I think something I thought of like a few weeks ago was, why people are always just quick to be like, oh, if like God is so loving, why does he let all these bad things in the world happen? And it's just like, we're the ones doing that, like, because we are given free will, we're the ones causing all that. And honestly, I'm definitely someone that thought that too, where I was like, what kind of God just allows like kids to die, or like people to suffer, or just like needless violence to happen all the time? And it's just like, God is not the one causing that, like, we are the ones causing that. I thought that was very interesting, but I think people are just so like, they're so eager to just want a reason to just not believe in God, I guess, or like just be mad at God. Like, I know a few people that, they just want to find any reason to blame God. And it's just like, we need to understand that God is the reason that like we have everything good in this world, and we are the reasons that there is everything bad in this world. Like, we're the ones like starting all these wars and having all this greed and all this laziness, and our problems are really our own. And I feel like until you're just like really honest with yourself, you're not gonna really like grow, if that makes sense. Like, you really are just the ones like, how do I say it? I feel like you think that it's just like all these outside aspects that are holding you back, when really it's you. You know, like it's your own mindset that's holding you back, you know. Okay. I think a great illustration of consecration is, there's this story in the Bible of this young man, and he's super wealthy, and he goes to God and he asks, how can I be a follower of God? And I'll end with this. And God, you know, like he basically was like, yeah, you know, like I do everything right, you know, like I uphold all your laws, all your commandments. And God says to, or Jesus says to, you know, get rid of all his possessions and give it to the poor and then follow him. But then the young man wasn't able to. And I feel like that's many of us, you know, that's many of us, like where we can't just like let go of certain things, which is, you know, like I get, you know, I'm not like blaming anyone, but like I think that's where it becomes important to have like some accountability, you know, a leader in your life, you know, to just kind of, you know, take notice, you know. But at the same time, we only know what we tell each other, you know, and I feel like that's why community is very important, you know, so we can build each other up, uphold each other, and just be like, hey, like you're holding on to this too much, like you're prioritizing this, like, you know, and it's getting in the way of our walk with Christ, you know, because there's really nothing more important than our walk with Christ. That's pretty much all I had. I'm pretty excited for the new year. You know, I'm excited to see how, you know, this run club will grow, and, you know, people will definitely start coming. I feel it, you know. God, it is so cold. I kind of just want to, I guess for this year, I kind of want to get back to just like the old me, the old Kanye. Like I kind of miss like that hunger that I used to have for like certain things, like fitness, I guess, you know, primarily, you know, like discipline and stuff. And I think I was prioritizing my fitness a lot last year, the second half of last year. But I feel like I was prioritizing that over God. And honestly, I feel like I was genuinely like miserable. You know, I always had this concept that like if I looked this way, if I was able to do these certain things, like, you know, like with the gym, like if I got this strong, that would make me happy. And honestly, I was at my most unhappy, like, which is so weird because like there was one time in my life where like that was what I wanted, and you know, I had finally achieved those things, and like I was just like miserable. I wasn't even happy. And I'm pretty sure that's because of the big gap I put between myself and God, you know. So I want to, you know, just put God first in everything that I do, and I want to be thankful for him, to him, for everything that he's given me. And, you know, yeah, I would say just, you know, if there's any advice I could offer is to prioritize God, especially if you're like, you know, like, you know, you were close to God and then you fell out of it. I would say go back to it, because it's just like, you know, I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on the person, but I found myself like to be pretty like miserable, you know, like without him. So I'm excited to get back to it, you know, like going back to church, like on time, being more involved with my youth ministry and all that stuff, and definitely networking, like, towards people outside of my church to get people to come here, you know, so that like I could just kind of evangelize like on my own time, you know, and things like that. I might even do that today, you know. go evangelize at Sephora or something. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I try to make jokes when I'm nervous. Anyways, yeah, I'm gonna just get into my run. Unfortunately, I cannot wear this sweater because if there's anything I know about running, it's that the sweater kind of just makes it worse. Like, eventually, like, it seems nice, like, right now to run with it on, but I know after the first lap, I'm gonna be like very hot and I'm just gonna want to take it off. So there's no point. This is gonna be an interesting run because I don't even have my earbuds, so I'm just gonna have it's just gonna be me and God on this run today. So I hope everyone's having a great first week of the new year, and I hope everyone has a great day. Peace.